You know what's really cool is that Cisco creates a lot of amazing functionality and features in their products. And what I'd like to do is chat with you about a security feature called Dynamic ARP Inspection and explain to you in this video why it's important, why we need it, and how it works. And so one of the core ideas about Dynamic ARP Inspection is that we're going to protect the network from devices like PCA or PCB or PCC lying about what their layer 2 information is when they respond and work with ARP. So let's take a look before there's any maliciousness with ARP messages, and let's build in our mind the ARP table in PCA. So let's imagine that in this VLAN, PCA or host A was talking to host C, and in order to communicate, PCA did an ARP request and discovered what host C's MAC address was. So in the ARP cache, here in the mind of host A, it would say, okay, to get to the IP address of host C, I'm going to go ahead and use the MAC address of host C. No problem. And if we looked at host C, its ARP cache would look something like this. It would say to get to host A, it would use the IP address of IP A and the MAC address of host A. So that looks pretty straightforward. And that's all well and good until this attacker steps in and he is going to play the bad guy running malicious software. And what this malicious software do, it's going to lie, and it's going to send out an ARP message, and it could be a gratuitous ARP, meaning it wasn't an ARP that was solicited. And in the ARP message that host B is sending out, it's saying to get to IPC, go ahead and use my MAC address, MAC B. And if host A buys into that, it updates its ARP cache and says, okay, great, got your MAC address, no problem. If I ever need to forward a frame to you at your IP address, I'll send it to your layer 2 address. And then future frames, as they go into the switch, will be forwarded to the attacker. And the attacker would do the same thing over here. It would send out a gratuitous ARP. And then that it would say, hey, to get to IP address A, over here, go ahead and use this MAC address, which is MAC B. So host C says, oh, updated information, great. I'm going to use MAC B. So now if host A and host C are talking to each other, they're forwarding frames to the attacker's layer 2 address, who then can see all those packets. And if the software is any good that this attacker is running, he very likely is forwarding on the traffic after he's had a chance to either eavesdrop and or manipulate that traffic in transit. So from host A and host C's perspective, they think they're talking to each other, but in reality, it's going through the host B. So the question might come up, okay, great, that's a problem. How do we solve it? How do we prevent host B from sending out bogus and incorrect layer 2 ARP messages? And the answer is dynamic ARP inspection, or as his friends call him, DAI. And so if we apply dynamic ARP inspection to VLAN 30, all the ports in VLAN 30 that are untrusted, by default they're all untrusted ports. Anytime there's an ARP message that goes into the switch is going to check, hey, is that your IP address? Hey, is that your layer 2 address? And if there's any shenanigans going on where they don't line up, the switch is simply going to drop that ARP message so it doesn't go into the switch and does not reach its intended victim. So in this video, we've taken a look at the problem of a device maliciously lying about layer 2 address information to other devices on that same network. We'll solve that with dynamic ARP inspection, and we'll take a look at the commands for implementing dynamic ARP inspection in the very next video. So I'll see you there in just a moment. Meanwhile, I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.